Hello, today I'm going to be covering section 3.2, addition and subtraction of decimals. Addition and subtraction of decimals is very similar to adding and subtracting integers, where you line up the place values and then add or subtract accordingly. With decimals, you can add trailing zeros, which are zeros that are after a decimal point at the end of a number, just to make the decimal points in the numbers the same, so you can line up the place values. So I'm going to start off with example 1, part A. Part A, 2.5 plus 4.1. Now, they already have the same number of decimal places, so I do not have to add any trailing zeros. So I just go ahead and add. 5 plus 1 is 6, and 2 plus 4 is 6. Now with the decimals, you just drop them straight down as long as they're lined up, and that's where the decimal goes. So the answer is 6 and 6/10. Now with B, we have 32.4, 1.58, and 0.934. When they don't have the same number of decimal places, you want them to all have the same number as the number with the most decimal places. Now that is pretty wordy. All you do though is look for the number with the most decimal places, which is this one because it has 4, and make sure every other number has the same number of decimal places. So since this has 4, this only has 2, so I have to add 2 trailing zeros. 32.4 only has 1 decimal place, so I have to add 3 trailing zeros. Now that they're all positive, you just add them. 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. 0 plus 0 plus 3 is 3. Then 0 plus 8 plus 9. 8 plus 9 is 17. So write down the 7. And don't forget to carry your 1. And you have to add it in with the next place value. So 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 5 is 10. Plus 0 is 10. So write down the 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 1 is 4. Nothing to carry. 3 plus nothing is 3. And drop down the decimal place. So the answer is 34 and 734 hundred-thousandths. Now on to part C. We have negative 18 and 2/10 plus negative 10 and 8/10. They have the same number of decimal places, so I don't have to add any zeros. And as with our rules with adding integers, if they have the same sign, you just add them and keep the same sign. Well, both these numbers are negative, so I know my final answer is going to be negative. So I'm just going to write the negative sign in right now so I don't forget it later on. Then you just add them. 2 plus 8 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. Plus 0 is 9. 1 plus 1 is 2. And then you just drop the decimal place down, so we get a final answer of negative 29. Now on to part D. We have 28 minus 3.3. 3.3 has 1 decimal place, 28 has none. So I have to add 1 trailing 0. Now I'm just going to subtract them. Well, I can't take 3 away from 0, so I have to borrow from the 8. And then now 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 minus 3 is 4. 2 minus nothing is 2. And drop the decimal place. So the answer to part D is 24 and 7/10. E, we have 40.3 minus 700. I'm going to add a trailing 0 after 700, so they have the same number of decimal places. Now, our rules for addition and subtraction state that if they have different signs, you subtract them and keep the sign of the larger number. Well, the larger number is 700. So when I do subtraction, because they do have different signs, I like to write the larger number on top. So I'm just going to rewrite this over here. Negative 700. Don't forget the 0.0. Plus, because this is positive now, 40.3. Since the larger number is negative, my final answer is going to be negative. Now I just subtract them. I have to borrow all the way over here for the 7. So 6, 9, 9, 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 0 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. 6 minus nothing is 6. Drop your decimal place so that it falls in the same order. That's why it's important to keep your numbers aligned correctly. So the answer is negative 659 and 7/10. Part F, we have negative 36.2 minus 10.02. I need to add a trailing 0 here so they have the same number of decimal places. Now, they are the same sign. They're both negative. So I have to add them together but keep the same sign. So I know my answer is going to be negative, so I'm just going to write it there so I don't forget. 0 plus 2, 2. 2 plus 0, 2. 6 plus 0, 6. 3 plus 1, 4. And then you drop the decimal place down so it lines up correctly. So the answer is negative 46 and 22 hundredths. Now moving on to example 2. It's an evaluate problem, which we have seen in every section so far. So evaluate the expression if x equals 2.4 and y equals 0.12. Part A is x plus y. The first step in evaluating a problem is replacing the variables with their numbers. So x is 2.4 and y is 0.12. Now when I add decimals, I like writing them vertically so I can see if I need to add any trailing zeros. And as you can see, I have 2 decimal places here, only 1 here, so I need to add 1 trailing 0. I'm adding them. 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 plus 1 is 5. 2 plus 0 is 2. And again, drop it down so it's in the same spot, aligned with everything else. So the answer to x plus y is 2 and 52 hundredths. Now part B is x minus y. So the only thing changing is the minus sign. So I have 2.4 minus 0.12. Again, I'm going to rewrite it vertically. And also, again, I'm going to have to add a trailing 0 after 2.4 so they have the same number of decimal places. Now with subtraction, I'm going to have to borrow. And then 10 minus 2 is 8. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. So the final answer for x minus y is 2 and 28 hundredths. Now on to example 3. Simplify the expression. When I simplify an expression, the first thing I do is I start out with the first term and I underline it. Then I look for all like terms. Well, this has a z in it, so I'm going to look for all the other terms that have a z in it. Doesn't. This one does, so I'm going to underline it, and this one doesn't. Since those are like terms, I can combine them. So off to the side, I am going to combine them. 14.2z minus 9.6z. The z is kind of like a label, so I know it's going to be part of my final answer. So I'm just going to write it down. Now I look. Well, they have the same number of decimal places, so I don't need to add a trailing 0. And I just have to subtract. Well, I'm going to have to borrow. So 3, 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. I have to borrow again. And now 13 minus 9 is 4. And drop the decimal place. That's the most important part about this section. Do not misalign the decimal places. So we get 4 and 6/10 z. Then I lightly cross out so I can still see them, but just to know that I'm done with these numbers, the numbers that I used. Then I move on to the next term, which is a constant, and I circle it or put it in a square or something, just different than underlining. Then I look for all other terms like that. So I'm going to look for other constants. Now again, I'm going to combine them off to the side. 11.9 minus 15.2 2. Now that's supposed to be a 9. Okay, now with addition and subtraction, they have different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. And like I said earlier, I like writing the larger number on top, so I'm going to rewrite this so that the 15.2 is on top. And since this is technically a positive, I'm going to put a plus sign there. Now I know I'm going to be subtracting them, and my larger number is negative, so my final answer is going to be negative. Now the decimals are lined up, same number of decimal places, no trailing zero, so I'm going to go ahead with the subtraction. You cannot take away 9 from 2, so I have to borrow. Now I have 12 minus 9 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. 1 minus 1 is 0. And again, drop down the decimal place exactly where it was. And we get an answer of negative 3 3/10. And our final answer for simplifying this expression is 4 6/10 z minus 3 3/10. And that is it for this section. I hope that you found it helpful.